All right. What was the self-defense situation story that I have? These are some that I tell my students. Some are kind of funny, but I'll start early on. So this happened back when I was in high school, and I was in Colorado Springs at the time, in a town called Widefield outside of Colorado Springs. And there was a gang called BUTs, believe it or not, back in the day, and it was Brothers United Together. And there was some kind of beef, which I really don't know even to this day. I'm just the kind of person that just draws that out of people, and it's not something I've ever really tried to be, but it's definitely something I am. And I don't know what my personality flaw is that does it, but if there's somebody that's going to have a beef with somebody, it's going to be with me, and it's going to be largely one-sided, just them mad at me. So what happened on this fateful night? We got called that there's going to be this big fight down at the Janet Hill football field. So we all gathered with a friend of mine named Larry and another friend of mine who I forgot his name. We jumped in their minivan and we drove down to the football field. Well, Larry's sister, this half Korean buddy of mine, goes running by and she's like, don't talk to us, they're after you. And we're like, what? As she goes walking by, and then we hear, there they are, and the whole field, a whole field of people came running on it. But of course, we can't win this. So we turn around and blah, 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 blah. We run, get back to the minivan. As we jump into the minivan, Larry's driving, and we're screaming off in this minivan, and one of the lead guys, I think his name was Darnell, jumped partially into the window and started punching. And so I did my base, I covered, but I also grabbed him and pulled him in and waited until we got pretty good up to speed, maybe in the 30s. And I may have rolled the window up on him or something to hold him. Things are pretty fuzzy this far back in time. But I ended up dumping him off, and off he goes. And we thought that was the end of it. We never knew what that was about. Well, hours and hours go by, and we're out in the fountain area of Colorado Springs, and we're driving back home through Fountain and Widefield when we look behind us and a car driving by flips a U-turn, and another one, and then another one, another. It turns out all the cars that were on the road, at least in this moment, were looking for us. So we get back, we go to my house, and I get out of the car, and I'm trying to get in the house, and I don't have a key. And I've got one or two girls, the sisters of my friends, and my two friends. That's all we have on us. And I'm trying to get in the house. We don't know why we're being attacked. And finally my sister comes to the door, and I move her head to the side, and I get into the house. My parents aren't home. There was some babysitter I didn't know who was there to watch my sister and my brother. And I went in and I grabbed, those 15-pound hollow weightlifting bars from back in the old days? I grabbed one of those, and I just stripped everything off of it real quick, and I ran out with this weapon, because nobody was really using guns at the time. And so I walk out, and people are doing that flex up thing, where they're flexing, they're testing you. You gonna hit me at that? You gonna hit me at that? And so I was like, yeah, boom, and it gives a boom, 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 boom feeling to it, right? As I dome this dude, and he just drops. And then somebody else was like, hey, you can't hit my friend, bang, went boom, 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 and the bars are wobbling. It was kind of funny at the time. Like, these people weren't getting killed, they're just getting domed and kind of hurt and then leaving. I was pulling the shots, but I was hitting hard enough. As I come from a traditional martial arts background where I worked with some weapons training, so this is the first time I'd actually ever had a reason to use this. And then one guy that flexed up after seeing all of that, which I'm assuming he struggled with IQ issues, flexed up, gonna hit me with that, and I stabbed his foot with it. That's what happened. There were sparks, and bang! Well, at that point, there was a meeting of the minds, where some people on the other side, and there's a lot of people, and I'm not trying to exaggerate, but the street was full. Now, some of the people knew me and didn't realize it was me that they were after. I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna be involved in this. And so they stepped back, and it ended up just being a small core of like 5 people. that had an issue. And still, I don't know what the issue was. So they came to me and said, hey, no more weapons, because they were breaking out knives and nunchucks and stuff, but the staff was winning everything, the metal bar. And I said, okay, no more weapons. We're just, Darnell and me are gonna fight. All right, this is self-defense, guys, because I had to negotiate. I can't fight all those people, not even 5. So I had to negotiate my position to hopefully survive this night. It was pretty serious. Now, I went ahead and I handed the fitness, there's like a DP Fitness or something like that back in the old days, the fitness bar, back to Larry. And I went out into the street, and it was like a gun duel. Like we're like, right? We're getting ready for the draw, but we're out, and Darnell walks up, and right here, I don't remember. I just, boom, I have a blank space for a moment. What ended up happening, I talked to my sister sometime years later as an adult. She said, do you remember that fight? You're out on the street and there's this black guy in front of you and you guys were fighting and arguing and he hit you really hard and your head whipped back, and I had really long hair at the time. So my head whips back in the hair and I came down and I stood back up, and she said I was all bloody, and then I, boom, hit him and he dropped, but he didn't get back up. So I don't remember any of that. So I must have been concussed off of that impact. But what I do remember is being like, why is my head hurt? And then looking over and seeing Darnell looking like he was sleeping in the back of this like 74 Monte Carlo. And he had his friends in there with him, everybody that really had an issue. And I just went right back into attack mode. So now we're out of self-defense. I think I'm in self-defense, but I'm concussed, and so things aren't working right. And so here I remember, I go run over to the car, and they stuck a gun out the window. Luckily, they didn't want to shoot me. I never advised just attacking somebody with a gun, but I did anyways. And I snatched the gun, and I threw it down the street, and they're screaming, no, my gun, right? Because they probably took it out of their dad's house, and now it's going to be all dented up. And then I hit this open window, and it's broken, right? So it shattered don't punch closed windows, but this open one shattered. And I reached into the back and I grabbed, because he had about this much of an afro back in the day, and I grabbed a hold of it and I held onto the car, and I was like, bah, 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 I don't know I'm doing this, but I'm going to just smash your head through the glass, right? And then just smash, smash, smash. And then eventually they're like, oh, we gotta go, right? And the tires start spinning on the car, smoking, and I'm like, I can't get my foot caught underneath that, so I'm gonna move my feet back with Darnell's head. And so I snatched his head out of the car, and I pulled it out, and I kept working on him as he's sitting in the back seat, and I'm ding, dang, right? And I'm just beating on this guy as they drive off. And that was kind of the end of that. And there was a little more chest bumping the next day at school, but for the most part, we had settled whatever the mysterious beef was. I walked away from that night. I'm not sure how, because there's blank spots in the night from probably fear, and in the midst of running and fighting, I had tore both of my hamstrings almost completely lengthwise in this process. My legs had turned black and purple from the conflict. My knuckles were killing me. My hands were I'm pretty sure I had fractures. My nose was broken. I had loose front teeth. I mean, it was a rough night. So that is one story to answer the question of self-defense in FusBoxe history. That is one of them. So I'm going to tell some other stories maybe as we go of students of mine that had situations where they were able to apply proper techniques. So I guess the moral in this story was, A, I don't know what the problem was back then. B, I had to make a strategy because just brute force wasn't going to work on that many people. And C, you are going to take damage most likely. In most cases, I believe. I've got other stories that I'm going to tell where self-defense went right and went wrong with me. So that's story one from Widefield, Colorado, Colorado Springs. And this is Coach Sullivan with FusBoxe Mixed Martial Arts and Sambo1. Thanks for your time, guys.